Okie dokie, just keep on trucking along, you know? Just one vid at a time and I'll get through it. As soon as I think I'm in an extremely challenging situation to produce these videos, life comes along and proves to me that things can always get more challenging. So I'm gonna try and not be too hard on myself and release as I can, cause life's hard, bro. Brah. Brosif. Broteen. Steam Next Fest Summer 2024 Volume 2. The Alters. Developed and published by 11-Bit Studios, The Alters is a third-person science fiction plot in the vein of the movie Moon. If you haven't seen Moon, go see Moon. It's an enjoyable film starring Sam Rockwell, but seems to me like it was heavily inspiring to this game. But you know, I have no evidence to back that up. Beginning with a landing gone horribly wrong and working for a corporation that doesn't seem very concerned about their employees whatsoever, Alters does a terrific job of combining some of the most interesting components of a variety of game genres and stylings into one cohesive game loop. From Death Stranding equipment, Returnal design, Fallout Shelter base mechanics, Sim family management, and some Quantic Dream narrative branching, Alters is balancing a lot of varied interactions at once. A tiny bit glitchy in the early demo, and very by the book in its cinematography, Alters has a lot of heart to it, and you can see a compelling and human story at the heart of what feels like an extremely high-stakes scenario. It was certainly one of the best demos I enjoyed so far. The Alters is due to come out later this year, 2024. Flintlock. Flintlock is developed by A44 Games and published by Kepler Interactive. In a magically endorsed version of the Order 1886 world, it sports animations that are both awesome and underwhelming. I really enjoy the acting and the facial animations and the level of non-realism they went with, but there are bumps in animations, and the slide move seems a little bit janky, but this could also just be from gutting awesome animations and systems for the entry point of the beginning of the game. You know, to build upon when you unlock stuff and level up. I always seem to be bothered by that. When you first start playing as Spider-Man and some movements in combat seem a little disjointed, but then by the end you have all your skill trees leveled up and it's a seamless cacophony of action. So, I love the combining and chaining of moves, I love the gunpowder and magic theming, and I love coffee shops at the center of every hamlet, but I don't love it being a base-freeing game loop. And there are too many tutorial windows. I'm not amazing at tutorializing game mechanics myself, but there's gotta be a better way than just endless windows. Play, don't tell, you know? Flintlock is due for release July 18th, 2024. Hollowbody. Developed and published by Headwear Games, Hollowbody is a third-person retro-esque survival game whose opening plays out like a scene from Blade Runner mashed up with Resident Evil. Sporting great art and great voices and a great story, I was thoroughly invested in it within minutes. There's just so many things that are going right with this demo, and I'm not even a survival horror fan. The futurist meets a destroyed town works well, very playable and super compelling. And between level design that harkens back to when games actually cared about that kind of stuff, and a leading of narrative that really builds the tension, I think Hollowbody is doing a lot correct, and I'm excited for its release. Hollowbody is due out soon. Once Human, developed and published by Starry Studio, a subsidiary of NetEase, Once Human is something of a remnant meets a crafting game. Normally I don't cover things I don't have a healthy amount of appreciation for, but the amount of advertisement I've seen for Once Human has been super disproportionate to the amount of critical coverage I've witnessed, so I felt it was fair game for a bit more of a direct commentary. Though pretty and serving up a fair amount of beautiful shaders, Once Human did not bring me as far as I was hoping. In a couple of hours of playtime, I really didn't get anything done, or feel like I was going to get much done anytime soon. Having many visual inspirations and neat ideas, the most prominent to me is Returnal and Control. It just feels like a grab bag of everything cool. And that could have sold me on the experience, even though it clearly is richer in co-op. I'd at least be able to tell myself it was interesting. But then the crafting tutorials started, and you know, after years of Valheim, you gotta really bring it with the crafting for me to feel inspired by it. Once Human feels so bespoke graphically at times, and from what I see from future boss enemy designs, that continues. But then the player models and much of the normal environments feel very asset story, as well as having a pretty blasé thirst model with a Lilu from Fifth Element model for the start, which doesn't have to be a bad thing, but in this case to me it was. And who knows, maybe I'll be back in 9 months after a stint of co-op play in it and change my tune. But as far as the demo, I didn't fall as hard as I was hoping to. All in all, it kind of made me miss Let It Die, which is like, that's a weird thing to make me feel, guys, stop it. Once Human is due for release July 9th, 2024. Caravan Sandwich. Developed by Studio Plain Toast and published by Dear Villagers, Caravan Sandwich is a third-person action-adventure game with pleasing cartoon-esque art direction and pleasantly fluid controls. The overall vibe reminds me of something between Wind Waker and Mega Man Legends, and it's doing it all quite well. I'm fairly cynical about waypoints to towers to uncover regions of a map, but it is done in a pleasing and light fashion, not to overstay its welcome, but I was wanting more. It was encouraging exploration and not asking too much of a player to achieve. I guess I just really enjoy how it looks and sounds, and the plot of searching for a missing sibling is a good amount of compelling narratively. But if the demo covers the complete game loop experience, then it's likely a little thin for me. Caravan Sandwich is due to come out sometime this year, 2024. Nimbusfall. Developed by God's Pixel and published by Devilish Games, Nimbusfall is a 1 or 2 player boss rush experience. As if forgotten by time, Nimbusfall does a terrific job of embodying its retro aesthetic in art and audio direction, really delivering on that memory I have of staring at an NES game box art and projecting the epic imagery onto the relatively limited and straightforward third-generation console design. I felt like covering this game not so much of how long I was sucked in by it, but by the interesting design principles at work in taking a relatively modern, I guess I'll call it genre, a boss rush, and demaking it into something that would have sat happily between Star Tropics and Blades of Steel on a mom-and-pop rental store shelf in 1990. So often we have games that take well-explored design ideas forward in time, but it's much rarer for it to go the other direction. Nimbusfall is slated for coming soon. Tiny Bookshop. Developed by Neoludic Games and published by Skystone Games, Tiny Bookshop is an only slightly passive gaming experience of balancing your inventory, making educated suggestions to customers, and an overall soothing and calm game loop. Sporting music that seems inspired by lo-fi study music, Tiny Bookshop has many things that make me happy. Will there be deeper mechanics, compound points for certain organization or outfittings to your collection? I don't know. But the joy of setting up shop in a new part of town and letting strangers peruse your hand-selected collection is inspiring to me, not just from a gameplay and design perspective, but from a space inside me that I would love to make a nomadic life for myself that revolves around books. There's something that is so simple about it, but so rich, with townspeople relationships that develop, and an opening that seems to imply to me that this person just made a really big life change to fulfill something more important to them. I think I love this game, or maybe I want to live it. In any case, it's beautiful, and it's not just its seaside locations and calming art direction, but in a more subtle, philosophical sense. One that says to me, maybe you should leave everything behind, find a space, be at peace, and stay there for the rest of your life. Tiny Bookshop's release is to be announced. POGOPPL. Developed and published by September Games, POGOPPL is a kind of physics-based pogo stick game. In a world of characters that I think are referencing Quentin Tarantino movies, and a soundtrack that makes me feel like I'm just as likely to be robbing a bank in the 80s, POGOPPL has a lot of fun tongue-in-cheek design, and is one of those QWOP-esque experiences. However, POGOPPL's does sport a much more reasonable set of controls, and is not going out of its way to cause you more grief and misery than you'll already be achieving in failing the numerous obstacle courses. The mechanics themselves perform well and as expected, even if you get to some physics-breaking scenarios, willing yourself back up from the brink of failure. It's a game I enjoy because it has a clear sense of style and design, as if lifted from an early 2000s Flash game. Its scope and level progression is well balanced, and the idea of swapping through the characters as if the next person said, "Get out of my way, let me try," is an endearing and subtle headcanon detail that I appreciate. POGOPPL's release date is due to be announced. So there we go, Volume 2 down. This was an interesting one, you know? I branched out and touched on a game I didn't appreciate, which, I don't know, we'll see how I feel about having done that in the days and weeks to come. I don't think I have much interest in being critical of games, let alone game demos, seeing as they easily and adequately reflect the experience, and I'm not one much for critique. I just want to look at upcoming games and their design and ideas and study them a bit, you know? Take a seat with them, have a little chat, maybe slowly develop my own opinion on games as an art form, so that way next time someone asks me, what games do you like playing? I could have a real answer. Wouldn't that be crazy? Because right now I just keep on listing things I play, not things I love or want to brag about, and that seems somehow disconnected or insincere to the conversation. I don't know. In any case, if you have any recommendations, inspirations, salutations, feel free to reach out. If you think I love or hate something, I want to know. This has been Fib Likley and play games, cause really I'm just chasing that high me and CW had in the summer of 2003 when we battled a platoon of mallard ducks with baseball bats in Time Splitters 2 multiplayer, blasting a Scissor Sisters album to the pure debaucherous joy of running for our lives from a swath of very determined and very serious 5-star bots. But you know, the death of couch co-op doesn't mean there aren't more games to play, summers to be had, or memories to make.